the thing is that I want to call this as like a narration. Why? Because I saw this thing as part of the book called The Seven Habits of the Highly Effective People by Franklin Covey. He's done an amazing job, and we did a portion of it in the past, but I was thinking we will take time to do this for the next, sessions. We will come back and do all the seven habits. I kind of like heard about this or sat through like a 5 day session on the seven habits of a highly effective people, and it definitely changed my journey. And one of the things that people ask me when I'm on the road, Cyril, how did you arrive at this prison ministry, or what you're doing? How did you know that this is what you wanted to do? Actually, it all stemmed from this book, um, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. It taught me how to write a mission statement. It taught me how to, look at the life differently. And so today I'm going to give you a view into that. And I picked, these are like the seven habits that he talks about in the book, how to be proactive. So, for example, like, you're ready to go to work, right? Constantly, people complain about the traffic or, the gas price is so high, the manager is getting on my nerves, or, things like that, right? How can you be proactive if you're saying like the traffic is bad? I would rather go like a 10 minutes early to work so I can avoid the traffic, right? So in that habit they talk about like the circle of influence versus the circle of control. For example, the gas price going high is a circle of concern, right? You cannot control any of those things. But the circle of influence says, like, I can drive less, I can walk to the grocery store, or I can pick up my kids by or taking them to a walk, or reduce the amount of driving instead of complaining about the gas price, right? Begin this habit to each of these habits are like a sessions on its own. Habit two is like a beginning, begin everything that you do with the end in mind, clearly put some plans towards it. The first things first, that's what we're going to be doing today, is how do you prioritize the tasks that you have in your hand? Many of you are in high school, and some of you are in college, and you have so much of work that's going to come. You're going to all of a sudden have like a roommates that are going to be asking stuff to do, and you have important things to do for your classes, and sometimes you'll have to, take some break and or watch some TV. How do you prioritize these things? That's what we're going to be talking about. And then, the habit four is about like any task that you do. How do you think of like a win-win for everybody? When you are trying to ask somebody to do certain things for them, instead of thinking from your angle, thinking from their angle, what is in for them? How can I make that person to just like, win, even though I need a win out of this, right? You have an argument. In the argument, if you want to win, the argument, you cannot just like put that other person down and win the argument, because that's not going to end there. You have to figure out a way to just amicably end those kind of conversations. The seek first to understand how do you influence others, so you can have a deeper relationship with them, or how do you synergize? A lot of times you may have started a ministry like a Proverbs 2 to 6, right? Your solution is just like a top notch, but you by yourself are not going to win this battle by yourself. You need to work with others, in this journey. And then the last one, how do you sharpen the saw, which is to increase the effectiveness of what you're doing. So we'll look at all of those in parts, so you will have an understanding. But today, I want to pick on the putting first things first for the first few minutes, and then we will go into the breakout room. How do you clearly define often, in the journey of I'm talking to Timothy, or when I talk to, one of the things that they say is I come to work in the morning and I feel finished the day. It looks like I haven't really completed. Thinking, oh my God, I should have done that. So this morning I'm going to talk about the priorities. How do you so I'm going to help each of us think through this. And so we're going to place if you have a task to be completed, we have to know whether the task is important or not important, right? Or if the time that it's going to take it to get it done, is urgent or not urgent. Any task that you take, any task that you do, any work that you do will fall into one of these four quadrants. Okay. And the reason why this is so important is that you and I need to know what we are doing. We have to, give the right priorities for each of these. So some of the tasks that you see, will fall into quadrant one. People in this presentation, I'm going to show some videos and you're going to see they're talking about the quadrant one. The quadrant one is like the work that you're doing is urgent and important. And the quadrant two is it is important, but it's important, but not urgent. Quadrant three, it is urgent, but not important. And quadrant four, not urgent and not important. I'm going to escape from this. So keep that in your back of your mind, because people are in this. I'm going to run through a couple of videos as well, and I'm going to show you some of these things, in a moment. But how and what's the idea behind this? Why did somebody come up with this, idea? And so we're going to look at, Franklin Covey. He's the author of this book, 7 Habits of the Highly Effective People. And I want him to talk through this. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is Franklin Covey, amazing man. He's no longer with us, but on why is this important?
You're looking at this scene through what photographers call a wide-angle lens. They use this kind of lens to capture the big picture. Now you are looking through a telephoto lens, which is used to bring objects very close. Now you see me through a standard lens that gives you a normal human perspective. Most people live as if they were looking at life through a telephoto lens. They live hour to hour, day to day, looking at their lives through the lens of what's immediately in front of them, at what's most pressing and urgent right now. Imagine walking down a street while looking through a telephoto lens. We would focus only on the immediate threat or the passing impulse. We would live from crisis to crisis, dealing only with urgent things, mistaking them for the important things. The telephoto lens perspective would not allow us to focus on what's truly important, on the big picture of our lives. The big picture is what's ultimately important to us, our life mission, our organizational vision, our long-term quadrant 2 priorities.
All right. So he talked about the quadrant 2. When he talked about the quadrant 2, he's talking about this one. It's not urgent, but important. Okay. So the reason why I wanted to first give that is as we go through this, we're going to hear the different quadrants. So I want to pause here and see. I'm going to open up. The chat for a second, and I'm going to ask you, what are some of the tasks that comes to your mind that is urgent and that is important? Go ahead. This is for, you know, thank you, Maddie. You know, and these 7 habits are so important. You're absolutely right, and the school students needs to hear about this. So if somebody, you know, this is for volunteers, this is for mentors, this is for, you know, the students. What are some of the tasks that you do are urgent and important on an everyday life? Schoolwork. Okay, thank you, Christina. What else? You think like, oh, this is important. Okay, pray first. Okay. I would the pray part actually in quadrant 2. You know, because you know it's maybe sure I'll leave it here. We'll come back. We'll come back. Anyone. So this is like you know, what are some of the things that you feel like, oh my God, this is important, and I have to do it now. What are some of the tasks? This is not a tricky question. Clean your room. Jamaya, is cleaning your room urgent and important? Okay, I'll put it there. All right, so now let's jump on to the next quadrant. Quadrant 2. I'm going to move this over to my left. What are some of the tasks that you do on a daily basis that's important but not urgent? Sports. Okay. What else? Eating. Friends. Okay. Check phone. Okay. Let's look at the quadrant 3. These are urgent but not important. Actually, I could put the check phones here too. They are important. They are not important, but urgent. I have to check. I have to respond to this phone call. What else that can fall into urgent but not important? Any mentors? You don't limit yourself just to one answer. If Mary has done it before, you should have at least 3 or 4 answers, Mary. What are some of the tasks that you do on a daily basis that are urgent but not important? Are you guys there? Checking on family is urgent but not important, huh? Okay, I'll put it there. Hang out with friends. Okay, let's give not urgent, not important. Tell me 1 or 2 things. What are some of the tasks that you do on a daily basis that are not urgent? Browsing social media, take naps, oh, watching TV. Yeah, it looks like somehow we're all shopping, alive, video games. All right, good enough. You know, I will get this to you, but let's hear from one of the professors who talked about this and how he saw this whole quadrant work. All right.
In the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey teaches a very powerful method to manage your time. The 4 Quadrants Weekly Plan. That will help you manage your tasks in a weekly basis, instead of daily planning. There are 2 questions you should ask yourself to clearly define your priorities. Is this task important or not? And is it urgent or not? This is related to habit number 3 in this book, put first things first. You have an exam tomorrow, or you have a business meeting that may change your life. Kitchen fire. Serious medical condition. Important phone call from your company. Deadlines. Real crises and emergencies. These things are really important and urgent. They require an immediate response to manage. If you stay in this quadrant for a long time, I assure you'll be stressed all the time. You have a business meeting that you can miss. A phone call or an email that also isn't important. Someone asks you to do something for him, and you don't have much time. These things are urgent, but they aren't important. If you're spending much time in this quadrant, that's probably because you didn't clearly define your long-term goals, so you're wasting your time doing every task that just appears in front of you. You should avoid this quadrant as much as you can. Spending unlimited time on Facebook and social media, or watching TV, shopping, and going out. These activities are not urgent nor important. They are time wasters, but they may provide some fun, right? So, you can keep them, but you should limit their time, so they don't distract you from the important things. Planning and setting long-term goals. Reading. Taking courses and self-development. Exercise and health improvement. And building relationships. This is the quadrant you should focus on. Unfortunately, most of us don't spend enough time in this quadrant. We're moving in and out of the other 3 quadrants, distracting ourselves, allowing interruptions to pester us throughout the day, or drowning in crises and emergency situations. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself where you're currently spending the most time. What percentages do you spend in each quadrant? Find time and make schedule to focus in quadrant 2. These things are really important and would be life-changing, and they are not urgent. So you can take your time planning for these tasks, and take time doing them, without being stressed or distracted. And that was the 4 Quadrants Weekly Plan, by Stephen Covey. If you like to watch the summary of the 7...
The reason why I wanted to go after this today morning is this. Many of us, when we look at the kind of things that we are doing, we end up actually spending a lot of time in quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. Okay, I'm just going to put this. A lot of times, we're spending time in these, quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. This is urgent. Not for you, it's for somebody else. Lack of planning on their side does not constitute emergency on your side. They should have done this work. I need this homework done. I did not complete the homework. Can you help finish the homework? That's not your problem. It's their problem. Right? They're saying like, oh, I forgot to buy the groceries yesterday. I spent time with this thing. I have to go to class today morning. Can you just go buy some groceries for me? It's very urgent. I don't have milk this morning. I have to drink coffee. I don't have milk. Lack of planning on your side does not constitute emergency on that on mine, right? So we need to, some of these things, they talked about the quadrant 3 is something that you want to delegate to somebody, okay? And quadrant 4, they talked about, you guys were absolutely right, watching TV, Facebook, social media stuff, shopping, all those things are fun stuff. Yeah, you want to have them in your life, but you need to put some control over that. If you spend a lot of your time in quadrant 3 and quadrant 4, that means you haven't spent time on quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 is very important. Why? We have to define our role. We have to define who we are, what we want to do in this journey. We have to figure out that, who am I and what am I supposed to be doing on this earth? Those are some of the questions will come out, right? And, the thing is, we will walk through an exercise next time when I'm on this line on how do you define your role and what is important for you. Okay. But a lot of times, what you have to do and have to spend time on is quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. Why? The quadrant 1 is like it is urgent and it's important. Somebody in your home are sick and you need to take them to the doctor's office. That there's no option there. Your mom needs something that is urgent and important. In that case, you cannot say a lack of planning on your part, not buying the milk is, does not constitute emergency. There are some overriding factors like the mom and dad have on your life, okay? But you have to do it. It's like a Nike. Just do it. If it's urgent and important, just do it. But we have to take time on what is not urgent, but is very important for your time. How do you manage your time on a given day? We'll do a time management on that, and then also, how can we be mindful of not getting interrupted on what is important in your journey? A lot of times, what falls in quadrant 2 takes some time for us to do it. We have to take some rest. We have to go to a place, where you can think clearly about this. And so, this morning, this is a picture that you want to have. If it's urgent and important, you have to do it. If it is not urgent but important, you have to plan for it. And if you look at the quadrant 3 and quadrant 4, I actually said like a delegate it to somebody, give that to someone that you can take care of that. It should not take your precious time to do it. And also, as much as possible, you should avoid not urgent and not important tasks. Here are some of the things, and I will send this presentation, we'll post it online as well. You have to set some goals for your life. You need to, come up with like a plans of how to prevent yourself from getting into distractions. How do you spend time in relationship with people? That is more important. And learning to renew yourself. Time to time, you and I need a gas for ourselves. And I would say this, every one of our life is like a cup of coffee that you have in your hand. Everybody has a different size cup in their hands, depending on their level of faith, their level of deliverance. Some of us will have like a 64-ounce cup in our hand of coffee. And think of it this way. That's just like when you come out in the morning, you'll have your cup full. You have prayed, you've read God's word, you have done everything that you can, your cup is full, and you come out and somebody says can you pray for my wife or my friend or my sister? You're pouring some of the coffee into their cup, right? And then you come around and then you have like somebody, that says I just lost my job, can you take care of this for me? Can I have some money? You pour some from your cup for them. If you don't refill that cup, what happens is that eventually the cup will be empty or it will have some dirt on the bottom. And if you don't take care of that, of refilling your cup, you will actually pour dirt on people. And in America, they say an average individual in America gets into argument after 6 p.m. In the evening. And the reason why is because they haven't taken they haven't taken time to fill their cup. Last week, this is what I did, just to give you an idea. I put in my calendar every 3 hours to pray for filling my cup. So I have on my schedule at like 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, every 3 hours, I know how far my cup can go, and it can get empty, during the day. And I don't want to pour dirt on somebody. And that's why, it is very important to protect you as an individual from tasks that are distracting, from priorities that can be waited, the unuseful activities that you may end up doing and just not feeling full. Miss Sarah always says, living life to the fullest till it overflows. Our life should be like that if we pay attention to quadrant 2. I'm just going to pause there and see if you have any thoughts, questions, or comments. Quiet group, huh? Great questions. Navia is asking, what goals can you set for your life? What are some examples of first thing first? And what can you do to fill your cup? Great
Just
question.
thought we could discuss that in our breakout rooms.
Fantastic. And I'll give you a very high level on those. There are goals that you and I need to set. In my life, I have written a mission statement for my life to defend the fatherless, right? If somebody looks at my life, if somebody writes in my grave, this guy defended fatherless, would my life have reflected that, right? Everything else comes around it, but it's very important what kind of goals that you set for yourself, and as Ms. Navia is talking about, this is a question we have to ask. This is not only for the students, this is for the mentors as well, because we end up spending a lot of our time in quadrant 3 and quadrant 4, and we'll feel exhausted if we don't take care of ourselves, right? And the easy ones, and the important ones for you to fill up your cup. Each of you may have a different ways to do it. For me, it's prayer. For me, it's reading God's word. So take time to discuss about this. Thank you for joining us today morning.